It's hard to forgive.
Yeah.
Really hard. Like
You're fighting for your life and you're feeling like you don't know if you're gonna make it the next day. Sorry, I get really emotional.
I struggled setting boundaries, even in our marriage, for years.
A lot of women are like, no, my kids come first.
No, I said, do you love me? And you're like, I think I do.
Yeah.
That at that point, I just wanted to know what's going on.
yeah.
Right.
Like, give me your answers and I will deal with them later. Like, but I just need to know what's going on right.
Jacob comes first, then my kids. I was disrespected.
Yeah.
To see him in the hospital and at the house caring for me, I could barely hold my own daughter in the bathroom because I felt like I was blacking out.
We basically got to the point of the conversation where it was like, are we even gonna stay married? This is a crazy podcast. Welcome back to another La Familia podcast. Today's is going to be a really cool one because we have our friends Evelyn and Jacob, and we're going to do kind of like a marriage kind of pod and just talk about different experiences, and hopefully nobody argues.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Or hopefully nobody argues after we leave. Why did you say that? You shouldn't have said
you
that.
shouldn't have
So why
answered
did you say that?
Why did you say that so happy? So you don't like going to my mom's house?
You were way too happy.
That's how you feel.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pop it off with like the first question, and I'm gonna start hot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll start with y'all, and then we'll answer after y'all.
Okay.
How has family, if any, gotten in the way of your relationship or business?
Didn't even let them introduce themselves.
We didn't even get to introduce
Sorry. Introduce yourself.
My gosh.
Sorry.
Okay. My name is Evelyn Juarez. You already know.
You know the vibes.
You know the vibes.
You already know. I thought you said you're not a vibe.
No, I said you already know the vibes.
I saw your face and I was like,
You already know the vibes. Sorry.
Okay. Then why didn't you bring me on this podcast? No. Yeah, and we've been married for what? We're gonna be 10 years married.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Couple months, 10 years.
I don't know how I've been dealing with Jacob 10 years. Okay, your turn.
It's
What's
all
your
the
name?
CBD. No, well, I guess my name is Jacob Juarez. Just chilling most of the time.
Vibing.
I'm just vibing in the background most of the time.
Jacob is usually behind the scenes.
Yeah,
He's the most quiet one, and I feel like we kind of balance each other out because I'm very outgoing personality. So I feel like if Jacob was the same way, we would fight more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely we balance each other.
So yeah, I'm pretty chill.
Okay.
He is pretty chill. He's pretty chill. Usually, like I said, he's behind the scenes, but we forced him to do this.
Yeah, he didn't want to be on here, but I told him, you want another baby, you go be.
Yeah. No choice.
Anyway,
so shout out to them for being here. Okay, now we can get into our spicy questions.
so now the question.
How has family gotten in the way of your relationship or business?
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, I'll answer a little bit and then you answer a little bit.
Okay.
Can we check which?
Phone a friend. Call a friend.
What you gonna say? No,
Hey, don't get mad when you see this podcast. No, I think family with me, for my personal family, with my business, they didn't like my business. They kind of were like, because I come from Latino parents. So for them, you're supposed to get married and have a house, a career, like everything like that, because they sacrifice so much to be here. Mm-hmm. So God forbid que te cases too young without a degree, or if you don't get an actual degree, like, you know what I mean? So with me, it felt like really lonely in the beginning doing social media. That's what I do. Follow me on social media.
Follow me.
It felt really lonely in the beginning because they were like, you're wasting your time. Like, you suck.
Well, you were in the process of getting your.
Well, I was going to go be a doctor, but I had to drop out because it was so expensive, and we got married so young, and I didn't really have help from my parents or anything like that. So I
thought you were about to say, well, you were wasting your time. I thought
exactly. The credit card bills.
No, you were.
Yeah. Right then.
Okay.
So it felt a little bit lonely, and there wasn't really much support in that end. From both sides, I would say. So, yeah it was really lonely, and it sucked in the beginning.
Like for me, it was harder at the beginning because I did move a whole state, from a different state to come here. So it was like, that there really wasn't any support on my, from my family to come over here. They're like, what are you doing? Like, they're like, well, if you do go, you got to come back and stuff like that. And I mean, even until this day, I feel like it's constant, like, hey, when you coming back, kind of thing. And it's like, bro, at this point, you know, I'm like,
he's a Texan at heart.
Yeah, he
People
really
don't
is.
like it.
He really
People
is.
don't like it, but I told them in what? How long? In like 10 more years, he's gonna be more of a Texan than a Colorado.
he definitely is.
Whatever it is.
yeah. So it definitely, especially at the beginning of our marriage, it was it didn't feel like a lot of support, you know. But it's gotten better. I feel like
you grow and you don't really need certain people. You want them to be there, but
yeah.
And throughout that, like, have y'all experienced, like, I know that's kind of like an individual experience, but throughout that, while y'all have been together, has there been times where family, like, kind of like wants to get in the way of, like, decision making or certain things, or like what you do with your kids? Because I know that's big.
So let me tell you,
Just a real quick example, just real quick.
one time,
real quick.
for real, it only happened once with my side of the family, because I'm very big on, like, I'll tell you what I think, and I want to set my boundaries really straight.
Yeah.
So one time, my dad had a key to this house because, you know, when we go on vacation or whatever, to come and make sure that the house is good. He came to my house while I'm here because I didn't open the door, unlocks my door.
Yeah,
And
that's
I literally, it was the only time that I feel like he overstepped the boundary. Actually, twice. That one, I told him, give me the key back. And he was so offended that I told him to give me the key back.
Yeah.
I have a key to their house, but I'm like, I'm not just going to barge in there without calling you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe I might, you know. But,
Yeah,
but you're my parent.
It's different.
I could be butt naked in my house and you're popping in. Like, don't do that. So I had to tell him like that, because there needs to be like healthy boundaries. And then the second time was we had to live with my parents for 3 months because our house had a bunch of termites and we were getting like fixing them.
We had to tear a lot of stuff down. I mean, at that point we were doing a lot of remodeling anyway, because we had to tear out everything, and
we were married.
It wasn't habitable.
Exactly. So we were married, and this man, we got back like at 2 a.m. We went to go watch a movie. Tell me why my dad was like, you guys shouldn't be out this late.
Oh, yeah.
Like in this house, we're supposed to be back early.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he said something like everybody's asleep by 9, you know, and I was like, that's cool, but you know.
and I literally told him, I was like, we're married, we're gonna come back at the time that we want. If not, then I'll understand that we're not welcome in tu casa.
We'll figure it out.
And
We'll figure something
figure
out.
it out.
We'll go.
This man wanted to put a curfew on me,
That's
and I'm
wild.
married.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I was like, oh no.
Like I was like, okay, I get it. It's your house, and I mean, in his eyes, he was like we were young, so he was like, y'all are still kids, but at that point,
that's what's interesting about like Hispanic families too. Like, you could be married and have your own spot and like be young, and then like just unfortunate situation like y'all where y'all had to move back for a little bit, and they'll still see you like as like, oh yeah, you're married, but it's like
you're still our kid, basically.
You know.
I feel like because in a good way, parents should be parents the rest of your life, right? You want to be there for your kids, but I feel like there's boundaries. Like, ya cuando eres un adulto y un adult, you make your own decisions. I'm there to help you if you're like struggling. Yeah. But that's about it.
Or I think it would have been one thing, like, if he told you at the beginning, like, hey, we're light sleepers. We go to sleep at 9. So if, like, y'all can move in with us, but please do that for me. But if it was like not communicated and then got mad at you out of nowhere, that's kind of crazy.
That is true. No.
Yeah,
and one more. My mom.
She got a lot of her chest.
Like, I remember this one.
No, but those are like little things, because I feel like once you set it down, you're good. Because like one time with my mom, she got so offended because I told her that my daughter didn't have to hug her if she didn't want to. And I know for Hispanic parents, this is like crazy.
That's blasphemy.
Yeah.
God forbid you tell your kids not to saludar a todos when they come in. But I wanted to teach my daughter her body and her independence. Like, hey, like, she doesn't have to be forced to do anything an adult wants her to do if she doesn't feel comfortable doing it. And my daughter is loving. She loves, to hug everybody, but sometimes she doesn't feel like that. So I'm not going to force her. So one day, Jaylene was not feeling good, and it was not her day, and she didn't want to hug my mom. She's just like waved at her, and my mom was like, ¿Qué le hicieron a la niña? ¿Por qué no quiere estar conmigo.
¿Por qué no me quiere dar un
¿Por qué
abrazo?
no, Evelyn, ¿por qué no le dices que me dé un abrazo? Why don't you tell her to give me a hug? Like, what are you guys creating? And I was like,
Yeah.
does she do this all the time? No, she's having a bad day. She doesn't have to hug you. She doesn't want to. She's like, yo no puedo creer. Like, that is so horrible. She's like, maybe with a stranger, but with me, I'm her grandmother. I was like, no, that's a boundary, and if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like,
Period. But it was really hard. She was offended for like a week.
I'm
Oh
pretty
my
sure.
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about?
Yeah,
I'm
what about you
so
guys?
wait.
What about
I'm
y'all?
so glad we don't have kids yet because I already know that's gonna be so bad.
And you have to set your foot down, and I know it's
Yeah,
hard.
no, it is tough. We know it's gonna be tough, but we've already had the
Why?
conversation.
Have people like come in between y'all's, like family in between y'all's marriage?
Not in between, not like in between, but I think one example that like immediately comes to mind when we were wedding planning. My mom really wanted to be involved, and she had like, the heart behind it was good, but my mom all her life, or majority of her life, she's been like the person that like stays on top of you, like, hey,
Yeah.
are you doing this? Or hey, I'm gonna fill out the application for you, all you have to do is take it to the office
Take
or
her
whatever.
aside,
Like
yeah.
she's always like wanting to be like helpful and ahead, and obviously like with with immigrant parents, and stuff like, so it's like kind of like naturally how she always kind of like was,
How she's done it.
yeah, and then she like moved out really young when she had me, and so she's had to do everything on her own. Single mom. That's just for context. Okay,
Yeah.
that's just for context.
Now you justify it.
No. It's just for context. Because that's what she was doing with our wedding planning, and so then, which was a whole nother separate issue because of COVID. But anyways, sticking to the wedding planning part, she would like try to collaborate with you a lot, but it ended up overwhelming
Wait,
you.
I love that word, collaborate.
She would try to collaborate with you a lot, but it ended up being more overwhelming than helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
than actual helpful.
I think with me, I'm the type of person, because I'm an immigrant myself, right? So I'm not even first gen, but kind of, because
Yeah.
I still have to figure out everything here. So I'm used to my parents, with my sister and me, like we're so independent. We're like crazy. If anything, I ask my sister for help, but she's more like, I'll help you the first time, and then you have to
figure
get
it,
it done.
yeah.
The first time.
And so
You said
I'm
it so.
very,
You said it so country. First time.
very independent, and my family is so loving. But they're the type of person that they're the type of people that like. Wait, tracking back. I think they're like this too because I'm very, like you said, like yo hago lo que se me da la gana.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they know like not to get
interfere,
involved,
really,
or interfere
to
because
try-
they know that mis gustos son diferentes,
Lo
like
que ellos quieren.
yeah, and so they're very respectful in that sense, where like they'll help me in anything if I ask, and they'll be like, hey, let me know if you need help with anything. His mom though, it's more like I think because this is what I see,
Yeah.
that she needs help in this, so I'm just gonna do it.
She tries to be ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
And
But
Tries to
in
be
a
proactive
wedding,
in a sense.
it's about you
Well,
and you.
yeah, and so to me it was just more like, what is happening? Because I felt like I had this thing, it's like,
I think
oh, I'm
what-
Taking over
I
your.
think
thing.
what didn't help, maybe it wouldn't have been as like overwhelming if we weren't already uncertain about our wedding.
that's true
Because
because
of
of COVID.
COVID.
yeah.
So
That's
we were
true.
already like, are we even going to do it this day? The venue doesn't want to give us our money back. So are we going to have to reschedule to next year? So I think that also like played a part.
Yeah, I think it was just super overwhelming too, because that was really the first time that it was like a glimpse of like us joining, because then that kind of
She's like, oh, I don't want
went
to do this.
that kind of went into our marriage at the beginning, because Tony was raised like that. So Tony was like, my mom does everything for me. So whenever we had to go in, like I was so irked that like as a freaking grown man that I married, he couldn't answer simple freaking questions,
That's not
bro.
true.
No, if you're
babe.
used to them doing that for you,
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
babe,
well, I
how
wasn't
did you do
dumb
your
either, like-
taxes before?
Oh yeah.
Did
yeah.
you use TurboTax? I don't know.
Oh, that part.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
true. That's
My
true.
mom did it for me. So like that was already aggravating
Yeah.
because I had to but that's and that part. I don't know if it's all your mom's fault. I think it's just you, because I had to. Instead of getting information from him when we got married, I had to be like, hey, like, can you give me Tony's social security stuff?
Yeah.
Can you give me his tax information? And so she had taken care of it so much that for her it was like, well,
like now,
like, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Or like, you need to save it like this, or like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, whoa.
Like,
we're married now. Yeah.
Well, to me, it was like, I have my.
Let me do it my way,
I know he didn't before, but like, I have things the way I do them.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, it was so hard, but like, she's so. And I think what helped is Tony had the hard conversations with her, and I didn't even have to ask him to. He just did it. But I think that's helped because, from my understanding, there's like no animosity. Yeah, like.
How did you have that conversation?
I literally just told her you need to stop.
This sounds crazy, but some people can tell their parents, you just need to stop.
I just literally told her, I'm like, hey, like, I mean, I did like have like it was a very small conversation. I didn't like sit her down. I didn't take her to dinner. I'm like, hey, like, I just like, it was just a random day when I was at the house. And I said, hey, like, whenever you do this, like, it doesn't help Cecia. Like, it just, it overwhelms her. And I tell her that I understand where she's coming from. I'm like, I know you. I know you don't mean like harm, and I know you're trying to help, but sometimes she doesn't see it that way. Not that she sees that you're hurting her, but she just sees that it's overwhelming her, and so it doesn't help. It doesn't end up helping anyone. Yeah. So then, like, you know, she got her feelings, she got sad, but it's, you know, it's normal. Yeah. You know, like, I'm the oldest, you know, so it's like that kind of like. Yeah. But the conversation itself wasn't.
You were there for a long time without siblings, right?
It was me and my sister for a while.
Yeah. So she did have to do a lot for you guys by herself.
And then like being single. So it's like the bond is different. And so, she was sad for a little bit. But then, like, you know, as we, you know, continued with our relationship, and then us obviously being married and, you know, the days going, the months going, like, she kind of understands more. So now she doesn't like as much. And if she does, she'll like bother me and she won't like really message her.
Aww. And do you feel like that helped your relationship, like, now with them? Like, do you feel like your relationship is better now that you guys set those boundaries, or no?
Yeah, I think now, I mean, we're almost 4 years, but like, I don't think there's ever been, maybe once or twice has been something really little that has bothered me. But
I was gonna say, like, the good part of that was that it was literally like in the beginning.
So you cut it off.
So I pretty much
really
like
quick.
Kind of like set the boundary pretty much in the first year.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an ongoing thing that added up, and I'm like, hey, like, you need to. It was like within that first year.
Yeah, but I think also I just look at her like look at everything she does, and it's like, I know she loves Tony, and I know she loves me too, and so like I know that she doesn't do it to be mean, or you know what I mean, like with any malas intenciones. Malas intenciones. But then also I'm just like, she's Tony's mom. Like, I'm never gonna be able to change that, you know, like she's the one that birthed him, she's gonna be there, and I can't ever change that. And so to me, it's like, the way I see it, it's like, if she were to do something, I just don't let it get to me, because I'm just like, she's gonna be my suegra forever.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like I can be like, bye, you know.
Exactly.
Divorce the suegra.
I'm returning you.
I'm returning you and your son.
No, I mean, I feel like that's the hard part, being able to set boundaries up, especially because I do like that you were able to do it, like, not baby them right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat.
I feel like some people struggle, like Jacob.
Yeah, I struggled setting boundaries in our marriage for years. Like, I don't even know how many years it's been, but like, I mean, I can say now that those boundaries, I think, are set, and everybody's like aware, and like, you know, and I feel like we're in a better place because of it now.
And it's not that I changed Jacob, it's that he can stand up for himself now.
Yeah.
Well, I think like y'all got married so young.
Yeah.
So, you know, that played a part of it.
It was definitely a struggle at the beginning, I think.
But also the way that he was raised, because with him, he couldn't criticize or say anything bad. With me, we grew up, como te digo, I just said whatever I felt.
Like,
and
the
it does
difference
come
between
off
me and her was, like,
disrespectful, but also I was okay with that because as the oldest, we were supposed to do everything for our parents, like, because they're immigrants, so I would do everything. So don't come and tell me what I think is right because you've had to come to me since I was like, what, 6 or 7 years old.
So you feel like you have that authority almost.
Yeah, I have an authority because I feel like they come to me when they're having issues, even though I'm younger. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? As the oldest. So I feel like you can't come and tell me too much because I've had to figure it out on my own for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I think Jacob...
for me, it was definitely different.
It comes off disrespectful if you say no.
It was like any form of like talking back or something, disagreeing even in a sense was frowned upon. It was like oh, like why don't you do what I say? Like, you know, and it's like, you know, being married, obviously that changes, right? You know, you're an independent person, and you know, hasta la Biblia, you know, says el hombre dejará su mamá y su papá, and I had to like it took a while for me to actually like set that boundary and be like, look, like, I appreciate y'all, I love y'all, like, but you know, we're gonna do us, you know, if y'all don't like it, like, I'm sorry, like, you know, I mean, no disrespect to y'all, but like, you know, this is how we're gonna do it. And
I think from what we've learned is that it's better to cut it off in the beginning.
Yes,
because over the years
it builds up. It definitely gets harder to cut it off because it becomes a custom, you know, and
no todos aguantan.
Yeah.
No, it's true though. It is true. It is true. It's funny, but it is true.
It was definitely. Boundaries are important.
Speaking of unsolicited, I guess, advice or unsolicited, like, business, people getting into business or whatever. What is one thing for y'all, specifically for y'all, because we haven't dealt with this yet, like unsolicited, like, parenting advice that people have given y'all that maybe that like bothered y'all or whatever? And then how would you say, like, how would you tell like us? Like, what advice would you give us, I guess, like, to look out for with being in a Hispanic family, and like people give you advice and you're like,
okay, I was gonna say, let me clarify, like other people or like family specific.
Family specifically, and then you can give other people advice because you know, we have family friends that think they can also tell you stuff. That are like, oh, they're family though. Like, no, they're not. Why are you telling me that I need to do this with my kids? Exactly. You know, so it can be either or, but mainly like family, like if family like trying to give you unsolicited parenting advice, because I know like. I mean, you say it all the time. You parent differently than cultural norms.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I try to do the gentle parenting, but you know, like it doesn't work all the time. But I think one of them was letting your kids talk back to you in a respectful way. It sounds crazy, but I mean, like, listening to what my daughter feels and explaining to her why I want to do something. Because we were grown up, hazlo porque yo soy tu mamá, or porque yo te estoy diciendo, do it because I'm telling you. And our kids are like, why? And I feel like when you sit down and you explain to them why, they will comprehend and they're obeying you, not because you're forcing them to, but because they understand that you have their best interest at heart. Because then there gets to a point donde los padres can only have so much power over you. Then after that, you can smack me, hit me, I'm still going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And then you don't respect your parents because you respect them. You respect them because they were hitting you.
Yeah, like,
does that make sense?
In a sense, like, you fear them more than
exactly
because of they could.
And
it also goes back to like screaming and yelling, like that also, you know, for Evelyn.
I struggled with screaming and yelling because they were only screaming and yelling at my house.
Yeah.
So when I came with Jacob and I was like, the house is so peaceful. I was freaking out in the beginning. I was like,
how's this two people right now?
Wait, you're not yelling? No. He wouldn't yell back at me when I was angry. And I'm like, you're not screaming back at me? Like, what?
Yeah.
Yell at
me. I know. It was like a really trippy.
Start putting your hands on it.
Take a minute.
Imagine.
No, take a minute.
And then she would be like, DV. It's like, you told me to.
No, but one day, one of my aunts, same feeling as my mom, because I guess my mom went to tell my aunt about the situation.
Just trying to tell you how to parent?
Yeah, and she goes and she's like, as a parent, you're not supposed to talk with your kids. They're supposed to listen to you because you're the parent. you're not their friend. And that to me, we had like a whole like big conversation. This was over lunch. And I was like, I'm sorry, you did that with your child? I'm not going to do that with my child. Because with me, I told her, I was like, my daughter sometimes might make me see things a different way that I wasn't seeing when I was angry. And I'm like, and I can change. I can be wrong as a parent. And that sucks. It does suck to realize you could be wrong. So there's been times where Jaylene will be like, Mommy, but no, you can't do it like that. I'm like, no, this is the right way. And then she explains to me, and then I'm like, oh, shoot. Like today, she had like a bunch of little beads. And I got so angry because I told her I don't like little toys because we have another little baby. Because if without God, she could choke, she can die. And I'm like, I got super pissed. I was like, we're throwing these away. I told you I don't want them. She starts crying. She's like, but Mommy, I won these for doing such a good job at school. And then I realized that it was like if I was throwing away her hard work.
Yeah.
So I felt so bad. So I was like, okay, we're going to go get you another toy to replace the toy I just threw away. Yeah. It's not that I want to ruin your hard work.
Taking your prize away.
Your prize away is that I want to make sure that our other baby is safe too. And that you're safe too. So then once I understood that, I was like, okay. But sometimes we have to listen to our kids. Like, también.
Yeah, I think that's...
I opened up TikTok one time and Evelyn's like, I yelled at Jaylene this morning and I'm going to apologize. And I'm going to apologize to her. And then the video cut, she's like, I'm so sorry. But like, it's funny like to talk about, but it's true though. Like
my parent would have never said I'm sorry.
Like sometimes, like sometimes we think like our nieces and nephews or kids think that they're not like, I guess, capable of understanding like that we messed up, but they are. Yeah. Like if you can sit there and be like, yo, like sorry, like Jaylene, I messed up, like I shouldn't have whatever yelled or whatever, and then like they do understand. Like have you ever seen that? You've seen that trend where they crack the egg on the kid's head? Like those kids are like 4 years old, 5 years old, and then like there was one kid. It was funny, but the kid goes like, "Hey, that wasn't very nice." But like they know, like, "Hey, that wasn't nice. Why'd you do that?" Yeah, that was so like, kids know, like.
Yeah, no, it definitely is true. Like kids will surprise you how much they actually understand. And it's like, and that's another thing. Like talking to babies, like growing up for me, it was like not really like talking with like adult words. It was like always making these small little words or nicknames for everything. And like so when it came to like raising my kids now, and it was like, oh, we're gonna talk to like adults, and it's like, why do you
talk to them like adults?
Like Jaylene, like there's a
and people say born, that like you talk to your kids
like why do you like family again was like, why do you talk to them like that? Like they don't understand. It's like, no, they do. And it's one of those things that you don't give kids enough credit of how much they actually understand.
So I would get mad that Jacob would say, like, it's time to go mimis to sleep. Like, or it's time to, ahí está el guau. And I was like, no, you're a whole grown adult.
Jacob, he's like proud of it too. He's like, yeah.
No, he's like, mimis. And I'm like, you're a grown adult. Say, go to sleep. But I do that with my kids, and I would recommend this for you guys when you guys have kids, if you decide to have kids.
We will have kids.
You said, we've been practicing. We've been doing
We're getting really good at practicing.
Shut up. Yeah. No, talk to them like adults. Like, don't baby the words. Don't do the high-pitched voice like, ay, mi amor. No, like, talk to them normal. They develop faster. Like,
that is true.
They're understanding, and they get super smart when you do that.
Like with my niece one time, Ava, she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And Ava's super smart for her age.
Yeah.
And so she's really like, she's a little bit beyond her years. At 3 years old, I remember we were at my mom's house and she was like coloring this like bookshelf and like coloring on the bookshelf. And then I caught her coloring it. And then I was like, Ava, what are you doing? I was like, you're not supposed to color on that. Like, that's wrong. And like, she like immediately like felt she was in trouble because she kind of was. But then I explained to her, I said, hey, we don't color on this. I said, come over here and color on this right here. This is what you're supposed to color on. So she immediately knew this is wrong, but this is right. I can color here.
Yeah.
So then
the coloring wasn't the bad part.
The coloring isn't the bad part. It's like where you're doing it, right? So then I said, here, you need to sit down here, and then you can color all right here. She's She's like, oh, okay, so not over there, but right here I can. And she understood me. Like, I didn't like,
now you're ready for fatherhood? Chill.
Ava has taught me a lot, though. You can ask Ceci. Like, I'm always like...
Ava's so funny. But, like, Amber, my sister-in-law, she never babied her like that.
Yeah.
She would have like full conversations. Yeah. And Ava's it's actually so so scary because you just gotta know that she's listening to every freaking thing you say. Yeah. Like we were having a conversation with my mother-in-law, and Ava she wasn't even part of the conversation. She was just there, like playing whatever, and she butts herself into the conversation.
Yeah, babies are smart, and that's why again, you can't treat them like babies, like like baby them all the time, like
because you're not gonna develop correctly. I just feel like se atrasan en la escuela, se atrasan
you hinder them a little bit more by doing that, you know, instead of actually treating them like normal.
All right. So speaking of kids and practicing,
you're like obsessed with kids.
For real.
Speaking of kids,
speaking
of kids and practicing for kids, how long did it take for y'all to be fully comfortable and be intimate with each other?
Day one.
The next day.
No, you know what? That question is deep because you would think intimate is just sex, but no.
It's anything like
it's fully.
Like, I think dating and like going into our marriage, we were already kind of like, even though obviously we've had our ups and downs, but it was like, I think it started right before we got married, and then it just like Evelyn says,
were y'all
just
very
something
like having conversations already?
Yeah, but you know what?
But
it took us like 2 years to get in like a little bit deeper, like family stuff, like stuff like that, and then even till last year before you got arrested, we actually played a game on the way to New York called Closer Couples. It's like you guys have to play that. Yeah. You guys have to play it.
It's definitely.
It's from Target.
Play it on the pod.
We should. We should. Okay, because it is scary.
No, but being vulnerable and actually answering the questions honestly is what helps.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't until we played that game. I didn't realize that we have gone deep, but sometimes I told Jacob, maybe when we first got married, we would be afraid to answer these questions like 100% honest. Like honest, but 100% honest. Because like example, that's when I found out he had never had a piñata, like growing up. There's questions that you don't even think about like in your childhood or stuff until you have these questions in front of you.
Yeah, because like
and those leads to other conversations.
All of those questions that we had, like I don't normally ask those questions because that's not like, I'm not talking about it too. It's like I didn't know my parents' favorite color, you know.
Yeah, I don't either though.
Because it's like I don't ask those questions, but Jaylene, she will always ask us the questions all the time, you know. And it's like the way I was raised was like the way I was younger and stuff like that growing up. Like for me, it was never like
deep. It was surface level.
It was always surface level questions, and like if there was a question about something, a lot of times I would be too afraid to ask it, or I just wouldn't be comfortable asking it.
Yeah, it wasn't really like a normal
there wasn't
thing.
So to start getting comfortable, like more vulnerable, maybe like 2 years, even though we knew so much about each other, but I think it's progressive. It never stops because again, 9 years married, and I found out so many things that I think it's not that you are hiding it. You just don't ever think that.
You haven't unlocked that part.
Or you wouldn't have answered those like 100% vulnerable if you wouldn't have had that like comfortability of being together for that long. Yeah. Which sounds like it's something that you don't know until you get there. Because I thought I knew everything about Jacob or everything about me, but you sometimes discover that going. Yeah. And you guys?
Physically, not long.
You're so
but I mean, like intimate. You know what I mean? Like
emotionally.
You're emotionally intimate.
Because when we were dating, we
No, but it was different. Honestly, to me, like, yes, we did go there. Sadly,
or gladly. Depending on how you look at it. Depending on how you look at it.
In the moment, you were glad.
I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad that I stayed with her, right? Because then I feel like I would have like robbed myself of like really being for one person. You know what I mean? So like
I
like
think we talked about it before.
Sad. Like it is. I guess if you think about it, sad in that moment. Like damn, like why were we doing that? Like we're wild, you know. But but I think like the upside is like we were still for one person.
But the reason why I say it was sad is because I could never my conscious. You know what I mean? Like it was like instant gratification, but like it just never felt. To the point that to when we got married, it literally felt right.
Yeah, so look, that it affected her. That is wrong for me. But it affected. I was fine. But like, okay, so like, I'm gonna get real vulnerable. I'm gonna get real vulnerable. Okay, so when we were not married, okay, Cecilia, like she just said, we went there, okay, and we lost our virginity to each other. Okay, for those who are not catching the drift, we lost our virginity to each other before we got married. Okay, but throughout that time, the reason why she says that it would even feel bad during marriage was because when we would do it when we weren't and we would finish, like bro, like no lie, she would cry sometimes of how bad she felt.
But Tony too, but it because it just felt
I would just be there like,
oh my god.
You're like,
what do I do?
Did it suck?
Do I need to get better?
It's like, what do I need to do?
like in my heart.
Where am I falling short? And she's like, no, we are both falling short.
Like, damn, never mind.
Like in my heart, it just felt so wrong, right? So when we got married, I had associated like sex with sinning and being guilty. So when we got married, it literally robbed me of that, like, oh, this is awesome because I'm intimate with my husband.
A gift.
And so that was something I had to like overcome. It wasn't like
true.
It wasn't like, I don't think it was like it played a huge role, but
it is something that we had to navigate through.
Weird.
Just something
like, it almost felt like I had to hide. You know what I mean? Like we were in our own house. But it felt like
because we did it in secret for so long.
Yeah.
You know, like we even felt like we had to be. Well, she felt we had to be in secret even in our own, even in our own house.
You know what? That's such an interesting take because I would have thought that, oh, you're like, oh, now I'm like free to do it, like I would feel good. But it makes so much sense because if the pattern was to feel guilty, now when you like got married, like now you feel some type of way because you're like, oh shoot. So how did you overcome that?
I think. I don't know. I had to like really like. It was so weird. It was like a reassurance of like, this is my husband, like you know, like this is like.
I would tell her too, like
this is. It was just a reassurance of that. But I think even to this day, not that I feel like that, but I'm still reminded of that. You know what I mean? Like I'm still like. I don't know. It was weird, but that's what played a part. I guess,
luckily, it wasn't nothing like too crazy.
Intimacy.
That we had to like overcome or like like throughout time we kind of got over that part of it, but yeah, that was actually a part of intimacy that we had to kind of
really
that we were challenged on and then had to overcome. But as far as like emotionally, that wasn't very in the beginning. It was easy for you to, I guess, be emotionally intimate or express things emotionally, but for me it wasn't easy. Not that it was hard, but just kind of like you. I never like really grew up with it. Like I grew up in a broken home, like toxic home. My dad was beating on my mom, and like there was no room for intimacy.
Yeah, to have like conversation.
As far as like with our words and like we had to like survive. Like my mom, did pretty well after like my dad was out of the picture, and she was there. She provided a lot for us, and we weren't really like struggling per se, but as far as like how I grew up, it wasn't like a normal thing. So when I got married, it was just never on my mind to like really just sit there and have a conversation and like be available, I guess.
I think to this day, I think one of the most vulnerable conversations we had, and it wasn't even like you didn't even want to have it, you just didn't care for it, was a year ago. We had to have like a really hard conversation.
Hold on, we'll get there. Okay, because that's part of like another question I got.
Like it's so weird because I don't know. I think we're still working on it. To be honest,
I'm still working on it for sure because it's like I said, like I'll give you an example. She gets mad at me because, like, not angry, but just like why don't you do this? Like kind of gets bothered. I would say, not mad, that like I won't tell her dad or grandpa or like her mom Happy Mother's Day or Happy Father's Day and stuff, and I tell her like I don't even tell my own family that. Like why would I tell your family that? Like, you know, like, but I'm being so serious. Like I will tell them, but like I didn't really grow up. Happy Mother's Day, Happy Father's Day, like, and so different things like that I personally struggle with because I didn't grow up doing it. But obviously, like when you marry somebody, like a partner who like kind of challenges you on those things, then like it does help because you start to see like, okay, like like I can tell them, and then with her challenging me, now I can go tell my family now, like, and then I'm telling her family, and then now it's like more like. It's better. Like it becomes better for both of us.
I think what we're still struggling on with each other is that whenever we do get vulnerable with each other, it's because something has happened, or somebody's going through something. Like something happened to him, or like he's feeling something, which is honestly he won't even discuss it with me. But like, or something's happening in my life where I'm just like, and that's when we have to talk about it. But it's still been so hard because we're not very good at like.
Being proactive about it, like going forward.
Yeah, but more like we're not very good at like knowing how to meet each other's needs. So like, for example, there's been like my family has been going through a lot, and sometimes like Tony has big thoughts and big feelings about what we're going through. But I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? Like there's so many thoughts, so many things from everybody. So like when I want to discuss something, I just want you to be there. And so, but he's not good at that. He'll just like come and like say even more things about the topic, right? And same with me, like, so we're not that, and I think it's kind of like stopped us from sharing way too much too, because we just know that we're maybe gonna make each other more mad than even be there for each other. So I think that's something we're still kind of like,
you know, with us, I think what helped with us was sometimes you have to take a moment to just like listen to what the person is saying and don't even comment. It's like, okay, this is my moment to say this. Don't comment what you think, whatever, and just like hear me out. Because like Jacob, he's a little bit different. He would like step out and be like, I'm done. Like, you know, let me shut out. He's like, I need a break. I need like not to talk about anything, and I'm like, no, we gotta
like,
fix this.
I would like separate myself from the situation.
So I think sometimes even if you feel like incapable of just being there, just like be there, and then later down after they've processed it, then you can be like, okay, I disagree with what they're doing or what's happening. Let's go from there. Because with me, like, I think with like issues with Jacob's family or whatever, I was so quick at being like, bro, this is what's happening for them, whatever. And then I didn't consider his feelings because at the end of the day, it's his family. And I would, because I hate, like, there's certain things that I hate that certain people do. And I'm like, consequences of your own actions. Like, you know what I mean? But that's how I was. But that's how I was growing up. Like, there was no, like, oh, I'm sorry that's happening to you. It was more like, eso te pasa por, like, you know what I mean? That's why God made us a team to be there for each other, even though it's hard, and he gives us the courage to do it. And when I say the courage, is because it's something that doesn't come naturally. I think that when Jesus said you have to die to your old self to become brand new, he's talking about that even through him. When we get saved, it also becomes like that through our marriage. Because you have to kind of die to how you were born, how your dad raised you, all of the toxic household that we're in, and you have to become brand new through him. And it's hard, but he's gonna help you through that. Example, like my parents never said I'm sorry, no se tragaban el orgullo. And I swear the first time I had to say I'm sorry to Jacob, bro, there was a knot in my throat.
It almost didn't come out.
I swear to you, it was literally the hardest.
She was like,
I'm sorry. I literally wanted to throw up.
she's like,
I'm not kidding. You know how they said this shit?
Like when Cecia's gastritis hits her, that's how you look. When Cecia has her gastritis attack, that's how you were. Like a dog when they're about to throw up. Bro, no, it's true.
It felt horrible.
It's true.
Like it doesn't come natural.
There's
and you force it, but hold on. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I started forcing myself to say I'm sorry, and then the second time was still hard. But you know, and now it's so much easier to say I'm sorry than before.
Talking about it was really hard for me. Like every time we had an argument or something, like I didn't agree with something, voicing my opinion on it was like, for me, taking forever. Like I would be like trying to say, but no me salía nada, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still I'm working on it still. I'm getting better and stuff like that. But just speaking in general, but yeah. I mean, over time it becomes
you
easier.
You have to tragarte tu orgullo sometimes.
Yeah.
No offense.
It's hard to forgive.
Yeah.
Really hard. Like, and I'm the same way. Like, but to your point about how, basically giving unsolicited advice to our spouse.
Yeah.
I know that I just need to listen whenever like Cecia calls me and she's like, hey, I just got the phone with so and so. They called me and they're telling me this, and she goes, you know what? I don't even know if I should tell you.
Sorry, continue, because he's gone.
She goes, I don't even know if I should tell you. But when I hear her say that, that's when I know that I just need to listen. Because whenever she tells me that, it's not because she doesn't want to. She wants to tell me everything. But she was like, I don't even know if I need to tell you, because she knows it sounds dumb. And then if I hear it, then I'm really going to be like, yeah, that's dumb. Why they do that? Blah, blah, whatever. So when she says that, I'm like, nah, just tell me. And then when she tells me that, I'm just like, I'll just listen. But
That's crazy. I didn't know that I did that.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, she knows that emotionally you might not be available to hear her out, and that's why she's afraid to tell you that. But in reality, I get your perspective, because I'm like, it's an easy fix. They don't need to be doing all of that, and I get it. But sometimes people process everything so differently that you kind of have to be like, all right, let me hear you out. I can't fix everything. Everybody doesn't work the same way as me. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't have to comment on it, let me just hear her.
Yeah, so when she tells me that, that's when I know I just need to listen, because obviously like you, it's an easy fix for me, but not everyone obviously is thinking that way. So we just kind of.
But you have to make yourself emotionally available if you want your marriage to last. And the reason why I say this is because at the end of the day, superficial only lasts for a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're planning a whole lifetime, you're going to have to get into those hard topics, and you have to ask yourself, why am I avoiding this? Yeah. And for me, it was, I'm avoiding these things because I don't want to get yelled at. I don't want to get in trouble, how my parents would be. So then with him, I'm avoiding certain things, or I want to fix certain things because I was always supposed to do that growing up. Sometimes we have to take that step back and be like, okay, fine, I'll be there for you, even if it's pissing me off.
I think that's the best part about marriage, right? Is that you will continually always work on something with your partner, learn something about your partner, because contrary to popular belief nowadays, right? People think, oh man, just one person, the same every day, blah blah. But if you think about it, you're not.
It gets super exciting when
you're constantly growing. You're evolving as a person. Opinions that I've had on certain topics that we've discussed, some of them have changed. Yeah. Like, I'm not even talking about like within our marriage. I'm just talking about individually. Like, I will tell her something that I learned or that I believe, and then like 2 weeks or a year later, I'm like, hey, like, I learned this new perspective. Like, I changed my mind. And so like, just as individuals and as partners, we're constantly growing and changing. And so
I think that's part of like, life in general. Like, if people don't evolve and change, they're gonna be stuck in there, and they're not gonna be happy, first of all, and then they won't be able to conform to the world in a sense of like evolving and changing mindsets of like, oh, this is how it used to be. It doesn't have to be like that, And I feel like a lot of the older generation, especially in Hispanic households, it's hard for them to get out of certain mentalities. Mm-hmm. So when we as a younger couple start doing things outside of their norm, it's like it gets frowned. It's frowned upon. It's like it's the end of the world or stuff. But it's like, no, it's just that we're constantly like, our perspective has changed, on certain viewpoints on certain things. So we're not gonna, we're gonna do things this way. And same thing in our marriage, like, we evolve as people,
and it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah,
it's okay to be wrong right now and then realize later. Because at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to be wrong with the right person then, right? And then end up losing the right person for you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it like that. And then the other thing is, about emotional availability, just like a side note, if you like see it statistically, if you are unavailable for your spouse, then you become available like emotionally for other people, and it could be your children. And that's why a lot of Hispanic households, they have this attachment to their sons or to their daughters, and they develop this weird attachment to them because their husband or their wife was never available for them emotionally. And then when they grow up, the kids are screwed and your marriage is screwed, because once the babies leave, you're like, who was there to listen to me when I was struggling?
There's a statistic about that.
About how many people get divorced after they're empty nesters.
Exactly.
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know the partner.
They don't know who they are without their kids. So sometimes, and I tell this to Jacob, you and me are best friends. Like, Jaylene hates us.
Right. Well, okay. Before, because I know what you're about to do.
Oh, okay.
Just say, tell the camera right now.
Yeah.
Right now, as a family, in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about rank your kids. I'm saying like, whenever you put your values in order.
Which kid do you like?
No. Whenever you put your values in order, how does it go?
Yeah. 100%.
Who's number one?
So number one is always going to be God, right? But
number
in
two?
between us, Jacob is always going to come first.
Yeah.
Yes,
and this
sir.
is going to be controversial.
Yes, sir. That's what I wanted you to say.
A lot of women are
It
like,
should not be.
because a lot of women are like, no, my kids come first. Hear me out. Jacob comes first, then my kids. I'm going to tell you why.
Better say it.
Because before my kids was my husband, right? And he's a good man. And he protects them. And at the end of the day, when they leave, they make their own household, who am I going to be left with? He is. It's going to be us forever. And if we're happy, our relationship is healthy, our kids are going to thrive, because they're going to have like a really loving, amazing household to live in. But if I depend on the kids, or if I'm loving the kids more and neglecting my husband, then my kids are going to grow up thinking that's okay in their relationship. And then I depended on the kids. Now when the kids are gone, I'm married to a stranger.
I think you sent me a video the other day
Yes, I
of this
did.
guy that tells his daughter why he loves mom
Okay,
more than her, or
so
something,
my
something like
thought
that.
specifically is your kids are a
God,
product of
Cecia,
your
and
love.
then my dogs.
Yeah. And then your kids.
Like when I'm not a parent yet, right? But like when we have kids, our kids are gonna be products of our love, right? So if Tony loves me well, and if I love him well, then of course we're gonna love our kids well.
Exactly.
Like that should be a byproduct, right? And also, I saw this video that this mom was recording of the dad getting onto the kids, because the kids were being mean to the mom.
Oh yeah.
But the dad's like, why? Goes up to them, not in a mean way, but you know, he's like disciplining him. But the word choice he's using, he's like, why are you being mean to my wife?
My wife.
In this house, we're not mean to my wife. She's number one. She's number one in this house, and that's how it's gonna be, right?
Yeah.
Kids are like, okay, yes,
He's like, 'cause
Dad.
if you're being mean to your mom, you're being mean to my wife.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so
It's like, she's your mom,
all
but
the
she's my
comments
wife.
are like, of course they're how you think
Yeah,
they were,
yeah, it's
right?
how they
But there's this one girl that was like, this is how it was in my house, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. And she's an adult now, right? And I saw those comments, and it made me so sad, because I was like, I come from a divorced household, and I was like, and I would have much rather my parents been like, I love your mom more than you, like.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean, like, because at the end of the
it'll
day, I
reflect
see
on
their.
your
I don't think
kids.
there's ever a kid that's gonna complain that their dad loved their mom more than them. There's never,
I've
ever.
never heard that.
I hate life so much because my dad loved my mom so much.
Because my parents were so loving.
No, but you
to
know
each
what
other, like-
you do here? I struggle in relationships because my parents were always fighting. I struggle in relationships because my parents hated each other.
Or
struggle
I
in
bounce around from guy to guy because my dad wasn't there to show me the
or
correct
I
love
can't
or
be a
affection.
stable husband
exactly.
because my dad
Yeah,
was
like,
out there
even in
trifling
prison,
with my
like
mom.
a lot of the guys that go to jail and stuff, like we're watching the show the other day, and it's like, oh well, they're like, well, if my dad was here, or like they're reflecting like, dang, my kid's gonna grow up like I did without a dad, and it's like I made a lot of bad choices because my dad wasn't there, and it's like so why not support and emphasize, if the parents are good, the marriage is good, then your kids, like you said,
It's
the
'cause-
byproduct of love. It's like
Because people think that when I say my husband comes first, they think I'm gonna grab a piece of chicken and give it to Jacob and give the bones to the kids.
Yeah.
No.
Or like when people say, "Oh, like
I get all
as long as my kids, like I'm just doing it for my kids," or like if my kids enjoy it, then I enjoy it. Whatever they want, like you think they. And to be fair, like they think they're doing well and they do mean well, but in the future, like statistically and from personal experience, that doesn't work.
Your kids need structure and they need an example. And that example is your relationship, because at the end of the day, your relationship is going to model the type of relationships they choose in life. And it's very, very rare for them to get out and choose a relationship different than the one that they come from. So, like, example, thank God, I feel like I come from our relationship is very different to my parents. And now when Jacob brings me flowers for no reason, Jacob literally takes care of me, loves me. He would never scream at me. He would never leave me at the house even if we're running late. My dad would leave my mom at the house if they were running late to go to church.
Like,
and you
I
know,
will be on time. You won't.
That makes me emotional because as much as he said he loved us, and as much as he said he loved God, I don't think God was okay with him leaving his wife back home because he wanted to be on time to church. It was
like he put the church before
exactly,
like his wife.
And I see that in all of his kids. You know, and I'm like, because you never modeled a real relationship where you love your wife the way that Jesus loved the church. You just love the church and then you love your wife, which is crazy. And again, our relationship is very different, and sometimes I feel bad for my mom. I'm like, she deserved so much more. And I feel like people need to understand that. Stop putting your kids first if you want your kids to have a bright future. Obviously, if you're done, like you separated.
Like if you're divorced from that person, and
you have nothing else.
There's different situations.
Yeah, of course.
But if you are with your spouse and you have your kids together, your kids should not be first.
Exactly. They will try to run and ruin your life.
And again, kids are kids.
And they're not you against each other.
Yeah, they're not emotionally
kids will
mature.
Go as you go.
And you know there's certain things that they don't see the bigger picture a lot of times. So again, like Evelyn said, sometimes whatever les conviene, that's what they're gonna go with. If Evelyn says no, like, hey, you can't have this, Jaylene will try to come up to me and be like, hey, can I have this? I'm like, hey, what'd your mom say? She said no. Well, I'm gonna say no too. And
we're on the same page.
Yeah, like, cause it's like, again, kids are gonna try to figure out a way to try to like
manipulate,
get their way and stuff like that. But it's like, if we're, on the same page, then you're getting the same response.
And our kid won't flip flop.
That's a whole thing too.
It's stability for them. And I think the best advice somebody gave us was stop trying to mold yourself to your kids. Mold your kids to you. So even if that means going out, taking them out at night. If you want to go out to a party or something,
stuff like that.
Take them out with you. They'll learn that they gotta sleep and they gotta relax there. Because at the end of the day, if you mold your kids to you, then you will never have a life.
Yeah, it's like going
to
to
we're the family unit. They gotta learn.
Yeah, it's like if we go out to a restaurant because we want to go out to a restaurant, and our kid doesn't, and our kid wants to be
McDonald's all the time.
Go to a play place, and it's like, no, you're gonna learn how to sit in a place where it's not an arcade where you can go running around and screaming and having fun. Like there's different places. Different times for different places.
Yeah, because we're going to make sure we make time for the kids. But we also want time for us.
When we want to go have a nice dinner, they're going to know, hey, this is a nice restaurant. This is not to... we gotta act like this.
And I don't think we've ever told y'all... Maybe we have. I don't know. But, like, we always say, like, when we have kids, we're going to be like Evelyn and Jacob.
Oh, stop.
We do say that.
I don't think we've ever told y'all that, but literally that's what we always say. Because... y'all, and they're so good too. You know what I mean? It teaches them how to like have social skills in every different environments. And a lot of people, and y'all are so real. Like for real, I'm gonna start crying because a lot of people make excuses like no, because I have a kid, or no, I'm not gonna go. I can't find a babysitter. But y'all are just like no, they're coming with us. You know what I mean? Like. And that's just, a lot of people don't do what y'all do, and that's what we're always like. We're gonna be like Jacob and Evelyn.
Yeah,
and it's hard because you obviously want to be able to go out and do stuff, but sometimes you can't, or sometimes you don't trust just everybody to take care of your kids, and you're like,
Talking about kids.
Shoot. You're like, sorry, talking about kids. She's crying. I'm like, you don't want to miss out on certain things because your kids are there. They're just byproducts of your life, pero quieres poder tener an outside social life too.
Yeah.
Because, bro, it gets lonely being a parent, and if you don't do anything outside of that, it gets too lonely. So I think that's the best thing. You're like, hey, let's go out as a family. Let's go to Top Golf. Yeah. We're all going with the kids.
We'll leave early if we have to, but everyone's going.
It's so cool because obviously I'm not a kid, right? But like, Jaylene's gonna grow up and she's gonna literally know my parents lived their life like this, and the reason I know is because I was always there.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and I don't ever want my daughter to think like somebody else raised her because I want her to go out.
Right. And then she's going to be like, I know the types of kids they had. I know the way they did things. I know they always included us. Because Jaylene is funny. Like, she'll act like she just doesn't want to be there. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, she knows we're like, hey, what's up, Jaylene?
She's always excited. Yeah. She's like, who's coming over? Yeah. Even though they're not, like, here technically for her. But she's always oh, it's Tony and Cecia. Cool. Where are we going? But she's always so excited, you know? Yeah. Even though it's an adult thing, but...
Right. And I grew up, like, with my dad. He never really took us out when he went out with his friends. That's weird. Not that it's weird. Now, as an adult, I don't. As a kid, I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, that's kind of sus that for all I know, my dad could have a whole secret life. You know?
You thought that?
Well, because he would go out.
Dang.
We never knew where. Yeah. He could have just been going out to a restaurant to watch a game with friends. But we didn't know. Mm-hmm. But so I think it's like cool that she's going to literally be like, this is what my parents' life looked like always. You know? It's like you're not hiding secrets from her. So she shouldn't. When she's older,
so she shouldn't. Yeah. And she knows, like, I think Jaylene, sometimes she asks us, she's like, can I come with you guys? Because she enjoys it, even if she's just sitting on the sidelines. Yeah. She'd rather be there than getting taken care of, not because they don't treat her good, but she wants to be involved. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that teaches her when she grows up to be mature and enjoy every setting. Happy settings, kid settings, adult settings. And I think your kids learn, like, they learn how to act the more you take them out into the public realm. So do that, public space. Yeah, I mean, I recommend it. I don't know about you guys.
It just depends. Also, I feel like some parents, like, they struggle a couple times and then they give up, and it's like, it's gonna be hard.
Your kid is not gonna want to sit down in a table, and you have to be okay with being embarrassed in the beginning.
I mean, kids are gonna. I mean, their attention spans aren't as, like, you know, sitting in a spot.
Let me tell them what happened at Nick and Sam's.
Okay, yeah.
So we went to Nick and Sam's. Yeah.